Can you guys hear me? There we go, that's good. Okay, I'm going to give a talk on how to rapidly prototype with JavaScript, but for multiple devices, multiple platforms. Just pretty serious stuff, so I'll expect you to pay attention, and you will ask questions at the end. You guys ready? Are you guys ready? Yeah! All right, I think you guys are ready. All right, my name's McCann. I work at Frog Design in the United States, in Austin, Texas, home of this dickhead. I work at a company. We do a lot of innovation work. So we do probably a lot of stuff that you never see, or if you do see, we can't claim it. It kind of sucks for me, but it's fun stuff we work on. We work predominantly with Fortune 500 companies like Hewlett-Packard and Disney and other companies I can't really mention, unfortunately. But we get to do really cool stuff, and since I've been working there, I've been trying to integrate using JavaScript instead of things like WPF, Qt, shit like that. So what would you say rapid prototyping is? Does anybody have a clue? Thanks, Captain Obvious. All right. Yeah, it's fast, right? For sure. So a more sort of formalized discussion. Oh, by the way, let me back up for a second before I define rapid prototyping. I will be talking about rapid prototyping, tools to use it, and then I'll be showing some demos at the end. So they're prototypes, so if they break, no big deal. Rapid prototyping, it's an extension of the design process. It's highly iterative, highly collaborative. It allows you to test earlier for cheap. So one of the biggest advantages to rapid prototyping is, say you have 6 weeks to do a project, and you have to work with a project manager, a biz dev guy, a couple of designers, and then you've got to implement it. Of course, what happens is 5 weeks goes by, and then you get a week to implement it. Typically, that's what happens at a lot of places, unfortunately. So JavaScript allows you, what I'll be showing is how JavaScript will enable you to do that fast, and actually be able to work with the designer side by side. So there's a reduction or an elimination of design artifacts. And what are design artifacts? What I mean by that is a designer makes a design, emails you a ping or a PSD, you get to go implement it. And then the designer sends you a revision, and you get to go make the changes and back and forth. Rapid prototyping allows you to sit right next to the designer and just be building while they're doing it. So it's pretty sweet. So in a nutshell, rapid prototyping is taking a concept or an idea with a very short amount of time with design and development associated with that. Other words for rapid prototyping, research and development, and labs groups. So there are small companies that have labs groups, R&D groups, these types of things. And a lot of the times, you may never even see what these prototypes are in production, but that's kind of the concept. There's an exploration, a discovery phase. You just kind of want to see what's available and what's out there. But labs groups specifically, there are some companies that have been able to take the concept of building out prototypes and utilizing them for production-ready applications, what have you. One company that's really good at this is Google, which this was perfect. I'm in the Google room, so this is awesome. They've actually have the I think the 20% time. So I think 1 day a week you get to kind of build on whatever. It's smart though, because then Google owns all the IP. So 4 examples of things that Google's created are Google News, Gmail, Google AdSense, and Orkut. Now, all these are public-facing. People mainly know about these 4 things, and there are other ones, but I'm sure there are ones that never hit production or things that they've shut down altogether. like Wave. The good thing there, to point here, is rapid prototyping is not just, hey, I got this crazy idea and I want to use Node and CouchDB and whatever else and just slap it together and see what I can do. There's actual real business value behind this. And that's big when you're talking with clients about the purpose and the concept behind rapid prototyping. For example, finally I can actually mention this. HP is releasing, I don't know if anybody's seen it, HP has a touchscreen computer called TouchSmart. It's about the size of a small TV. It's touchscreen and it's a normal computer. We did some rapid prototyping for them and they just launched it, I think this past week, so it's good timing for me. But the rapid prototyping work may or may not actually ship. You just don't know. The point is that there's an exploration that enables you to be able to put this stuff in a production environment and then hopefully be able to ship it. However, like I've mentioned, a lot of the business use cases will actually go unseen, and that's why it's called a prototype. A prototype, again, for those of you who may have never built prototypes, they don't have to be production ready. They can be quite, rigid and robust, but at the same time, they can break very easily. It's okay. One of the things that we also like to do is create a fairly consistent user flow, and we're not talking about catching every edge case. We maybe call it the happy path, where you just go through these steps and you show the different screens and the interactions and the design, and it works. And that's what we shoot for with a prototype. So like I said, Google's doing these types of things. There are other companies doing these types of things. There's a company in Austin, Texas, where I live, called Bizarre Voice. They have a labs group, and they're actually doing very well with this model. One of the other big advantages to rapid prototyping is that you can do it fairly cheap. So if you have 4, 6, 8 weeks to build something out, you don't have to go and hire a full enterprise level engineering team and a stack of interaction designers and a stack of visual designers. You can actually do it with a fairly small team, fairly quickly. So the key is that rapid prototyping is basically innovating very, very cheaply. So at this point, I think an example would help. So while I was preparing this talk last week, I wanted to think like, I was in Amsterdam last week, knew I was coming to Berlin, I'm going to Stockholm next week for Android only. I don't speak any of those languages. So what could I do? What could I build quickly that would enable me to, be able to speak? So I wrote this language translation app, and I like it, it's pretty cool. I've actually used it, and basically what it does, it's called Lingua, and basically what it does, it allows you to input a string or phrase and translate it into the language of your choice. And it uses a number of free tools and techniques that are out there, and I'll show a little bit of that in the demos. So then I was thinking to myself, okay, how would I actually get this from a client? So typically a client may come in and they will say, hey, we need this really awesome device, this really killer translation app to work on the iPad or and a mobile browser. So you think to yourself, how do I do this sort of thing? And that's what I applied to the Lingua app. I was thinking, well, what devices would I actually want to put this on? And I thought, where am I going to be using this thing the most? So I have a Nexus 1, and this has a mobile browser on it. But then I may be on my computer, so why not make it a web app, right? So I'm putting it on multiple devices, and that's the key, is how do we rapid prototype for multiple devices? Specifically, a desktop browser, mobile browser, native desktop app, and a native Android app. So think about that. You need a desktop browser version, a mobile browser version, a native desktop app, so it works on Windows 7, Mac, Linux, and a native Android app. These are your parameters. Could seem pretty daunting if you weren't able to use JavaScript. If you could not use JavaScript, you'd probably be thinking to yourself, what the fuck am I going to do? But we can use JavaScript. pretty sweet. So because we can use JavaScript, we don't get so overwhelmed. We drink a lot of coffee, and we get going, right? But in order to really start to make this work and really start to happen, you're going to need tools to do it. And so I was thinking to myself, what tools do I actually need to make this work? And I said, all right, well, I have a web app version, and I need a desktop app version, I need a native Android app. I don't know all that stuff, so I just need to actually use JavaScript and HTML and CSS and some other things that I'm familiar with, right? So the first thing, Node.js. All right. I'm not going to go into how fucking awesome this is, because if you don't know, you should probably be at home coloring right now. I use Express and Connect. It's not so much because, these are the best or anything like that. I use them mainly because, number one, you've got really fucking smart people working behind them. And two, I believe the guys that are working on these projects work at a company that's pretty well funded to fund this project, to make this happen. So you may have your own little framework and you've got a full-time job. Well, if your full-time job is to work on that framework, you're probably going to get a lot more out of it. So I select Express and Connect. It's pretty simple stuff. So that helps me set up all the server-side component. For the desktop client, we're going to use AppCellerator's Titanium. Is anybody familiar with Titanium? Wow, really? All right, so this is going to be sweet then. Okay, so AppCellerator Titanium enables you to write desktop and mobile, but I use it for desktop and mobile apps using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So they abstract away all the low-level stuff and just expose it in a JavaScript API. It's really nice. So you get file I/O access, notifications, like system beeps and that sort of stuff. And I'll show this in the demo here shortly. Next, of course, PhoneGap. Anybody heard of PhoneGap? Really? Even after Brian's talk, half the room? Are you guys that tired you can't raise your hand? All right. So PhoneGap's pretty sweet. It's similar but different to the Titanium model, where they abstract away a lot of the underlying mess with Objective-C and Java and the other underlying languages for the mobile platforms, and expose JavaScript APIs. So it allows you to do the same sort of thing. Use the camera, use native notifications, vibrate, all that sort of thing. It's pretty nice. And then I thought to myself, what about when I'm actually I don't have an internet connection? What am I going to do on a mobile device? And I'm in, a club in Berlin, and I really got to go use the bathroom, and I'm underground, and my phone doesn't work. Well, CouchDB is really sweet because you can dump a lot of stuff in the cloud somewhere. That's the simplest way of putting it. And then that stuff can actually get dumped to whatever is hooked up to that. It's about as simple as explanation as I can give. And it essentially allows for offline data sync, which is really, really cool and really big. I can't emphasize that enough. I think the CouchDB guys really know what they're doing with the offline data sync stuff. It's going to be big next year for sure. But I needed to have a database big enough to have a ton of already translated phrases and words, potentially. And I used YQL to do that. So YQL, anybody familiar with YQL? Okay, not bad, about a third of the room. YQL, try to keep this simple. It basically makes the entire web a gigantic API. So, for example, you can do things like screen scraping and any website, and you can request the response to be in JSON, and it makes being able to say parse an entire website and grab little bits of information out of it very, very easily. And I'll show a demo of how to use YQL. It's dead simple. And is Tom in the room? If he's not, yeah, Tom's like the YQL guru, so ask him all your questions, not me. So what about the UI? We've got multiple devices. Multiple screen resolutions, multiple platforms. We figured out how to handle that with JavaScript, right? How do you design a layout or a UI for all these devices with just one index.html file? Well, the first thing, and if you don't take away anything from this talk, please take away this from the talk, is that you should not be designing for a specific device. I repeat, you should not be designing for a specific device. You should be designing for a flexible UI, something that can actually change based on media queries. Yeah, media queries. Do you guys know what that is? Anybody? CSS Media Queries? So CSS Media Queries allow the UI to change and flex based on certain properties of the UI. And I think this will make more sense if I just end up showing you a demo. So, first, you can go here and play along. This is running on Node, so, and I'm not a server-side guy, so if it crashes, it's my fault, not Node's fault. So go here. You can actually pull this up on, by the way, I only tested this in Google Chrome because it's a prototype, so if you pull it up in IE or Firefox, I have no idea what it looks like, to be frank. The other thing is you can also pull it up on a mobile browser that doesn't suck, so specifically iPhone. Is that too big? Let's see. Can you guys see that? Probably not, huh? All right, so you may not be able to read very well because of the text, or can you guys, no, you can't see that at all. So if you, excuse me? Thank you. So all right, he did the demo for me. I'm done, moving on. No, so one of the things that I needed to be able to translate when I was in Amsterdam was where the coffee shop was. I was pretty sure I was gonna need to know how to do that, so it's pretty straightforward. You put something in, and you get a translation. So, and there's all kinds of languages to choose from, right? What else? We could pick, we're in Germany. We could do German. Same thing, pretty sweet. It's probably, is that wrong? That's totally wrong, right? Well, you can blame Google for that. I'm using Google's translation API. So I didn't write some amazing translation thing. I'm actually just using their API. So cool, right? But let's show you what the media queries actually will do. Did you guys see the UI change there? It's the same code base, same CSS file, and it's immediately being formatted for mobile. So if you pull it up on a mobile device, you'll get that. The cool thing is you can actually do stuff like this, and then when we flex it back out, it goes back. It retains the state, but you have to know how to do that in JavaScript. That doesn't get handled with media queries. Okay, so moving on. Native desktop app. This is going to be the Accelerator app. So you can see here, lingua.app. This is not, I'm not making this up. Different UI, Chromeless, kind of cool. Let's do it. Nice. So now, let's build it. Oh. Yes. Yay, all right, it works. So that was a system notification. That was not me embedding some WAV file and it triggering. That's the native beep that I have set on this Mac. So Accelerator will allow you to build it for Mac, Linux, and Windows from the same code base. Pretty sweet. So now you've got it running out as a widget. Accelerator also uses WebKit, so you're going to get the same sort of bonuses from it, right? Oh, by the way, so for the next demo, I'll show YQL, but if you have an Android device, you can download the APK and install it directly, and you'll have it running on your phone. And we'll get to that in a second. So YQL action. Yeesh. That was not a translation. All right. Just checking. Okay, so here we started off. That should look pretty familiar to anybody that's used Node. And what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that the server works, and then we're going to connect to Couch 1, where all the translations are stored. And then we're going to run the YQL script to translate all the headlines in the New York Times right now into Dutch and store them in Couch. And you'll notice here, it's just updating a timestamp because I ran this an hour ago and the headlines haven't changed. But if the headlines were different or if there were different words that were going to be translated, it would be storing it directly in Couch. So I can build a massive database really quickly with YQL. The other thing that's cool, the way I wrote it, is I can actually add, say, 10 minutes, and it'll iterate every 10 minutes and just start grabbing new ones and populating that database. So if you need a big data set, YQL will enable you to do that really, really easily. And then, of course, you can dump it in Couch over HTTP, which is also pretty sweet. Okay, next demo. Native Android app. So this is going to be hard because I don't have a document camera, so you won't be able to see it. But you'll have to either install it on an Android device. Huh? Photo booth. That's new. Mm-mm. All right, we're not going to do that. So, hey, totally impressive results. Thanks, guys. So I've got the native app here. You can't see it unless you're sitting really close, but it is the native app. And to show you that it's native and I'm not pulling up the browser, if it works, if the prototype works, it will vibrate and beep. There you go. So we're actually, yay. The demo gods don't hate me today. But we're online right there. So big deal, right? Let's do the offline access. So now I'm going to go into airplane mode. And by the way, this does require CouchDB to be installed on your Android device. Reload Lingua. Can you verify that we're in airplane mode?
Yes, I can.
Can you say that again?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good. So we're in offline mode. So if the demo gods don't hate me, they'll allow this to work as well. We're going to translate the same thing. We're in offline mode, and we should hear a beep. And that's the guy who works on Couch, so he must be really stoked. Okay, so we've got an app that works on all these different platforms and devices. I will show you really quick. I'm not one for really showing code during talks. I know people want to see it. But I think that one of the things that's important to check out, let's see. I want you to see how I have this set up. It's in the directory structure. So if you'll look, here, I've got my Android client, my desktop client, and all my HTML on my build. Kind of you probably already know about this, but it's something worth sharing because it makes deploying and testing on multiple versions really easy to do it this way. So it's pretty sweet. Right. So, what did we learn today? You can rapid prototype on multiple platforms for multiple devices really easily using JavaScript. And of course, you can design flexible UIs using HTML, CSS, CSS Media Queries. Pretty cool stuff. Couple that with open source projects like CouchDB and Node.js, Google Translation API. I believe I used Mike's request.js, which is an HTTP client, Maroc's translate.js, and I think Andrew Lunny worked on that. It's all open source stuff that I'm dumping here, and it works. It's pretty cool. Yeah, and you can check out my stuff. We'll be dumping a lot of this code, if not all of it, on GitHub, so you can have it and do whatever you want with it. And then I'm on Twitter as well. So, questions? You will ask questions. Or it gets the hose. I don't remember. Yes.
Yeah, so you use titanium and PhoneGap, and what would you say are like tipping factors for rather
It's an excellent question. So the question is, why did I choose Titanium for something and PhoneGap for another? Very simple. Titanium Mobile, which you can build iPhone, Android apps, etc. I think BlackBerry's in the pipe as well for them. They require you to do it all in JavaScript. So your UI and everything, which is not bad, but I still like to be able to work out of an index.html. Titanium Desktop allows you to still use HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So you can still lay out your UI with an HTML, CSS, and it's good to go. PhoneGap allows you to do an index.html as well. So again, I'm just working out of one directory and being able to target two different platforms. And that was the sort of tipping factor there of why I went that route. That's two. Keep them coming. Let's go. Really? Fuck no, look how cool that was, man. That's, no way. It's actually it's pretty sweet. When you can deliver a really cool prototype that they can see on multiple platforms and devices and say that they want to target one device and you show them like, hey, by the way, if we go this route, we can put it on all of these. That's way cheaper than doing it with 4 sets of developers, 4 sets of designers, etc. So yeah, it's actually, I don't do the biz dev stuff, but that's one of the upselling factors right now with using the web tech stack as a software platform. Does that make sense?
I used to have the problem when I develop a prototype and it kind of works to justify a long development of the proper product because the customer sees it and it works already. Why do you need 8 weeks after that?
And the simple answer to that question is it's a prototype. Seriously, I mean, as fundamental as that sounds, that's the biggest thing is that, hey, we rigged this to work potentially, right? So that it shows you the user flow that we've outlined, that you've agreed to, client. And then when they say, yeah, but if we want this, you already have it built, let's just go to production. No, that's cost a lot more money. And then you bill them more. Anybody else? All right, thanks, guys.